My film is about my 22-year experience inside of a secret spiritual community that evolved into a cult. And it kind of follows that mentality of what happened to us and to me and my friends with the spiritual teacher that we had in America. I call him teacher because that's like the easiest word to use, to not give him too much credit. We used to call him, he was like a guru. We also use the word master, but I like now just saying teacher. It's easier. But I learned a lot. That's a big question. I learned a lot from my time in that experience, not just from the teacher, but what he was teaching us was not just his knowledge. He was borrowing from all the different religions, from Buddhism, Christianity, Catholicism, everything. He was taking from all the different lineages of religions and putting them together. So I was learning from all of those different religions, and but we were trying to take the dogma out of it. That's really interesting, is we went there to kind of have no dogma and to be all embracing, but we ended up creating dogma for ourselves and rules and guidelines, and so we ended up creating what we were trying not to create. But I learned how to be centered. I learned how to love. I learned how to love myself. I learned how to have empathy, and one thing I learned, not from the teacher, but was integrity. I learned integrity because I saw he didn't have it, and it became very valuable to me. What I started to learn that he wasn't teaching me, that I just learned from being around him as a reaction to him. Some things became surprising of what I learned, what not to do to people. Originally, when I started making the movies, it was a surprise. I would make it because it was mine, and I would show it to everyone all at the same time, even the teacher. He didn't know what I was doing. He wouldn't see it ahead of time. We'd have one big showing of an hour-and-a-half movie I made, or one of our events or something we were doing together. And so, but slowly over time, they served a purpose in the group because we all loved them. We all loved my films, and they only showed the really, really, really good things that were happening, and so we just kept reinforcing the good things, and we'd watch them over and over again because I made him look, amazing, like a god. I was like propaganda, which is interesting because it wasn't until later that I saw how I only shot the good things. I didn't address any of the bad things. And so when I started to make Holy Hell, I wanted to, now that I had the whole story and had a voice to talk about it, I wanted to show both, the good and the bad, that were always happening simultaneously. But usually we just see the good. Most organizations just show you the good. That's a good question, and no one's ever asked me that. We weren't looking at the bad. We really just negated the bad. It wasn't the point. Like, the bad might happen 5 minutes or 10 minutes out of a day, but the rest of the week was good. And so we just focused on the majority of the good. I would. It was the only way I could get through it, is to just see the good. And my camera always liked to capture beauty. I was always attracted to beauty. So I would look for beauty, and that's what I would film. And that's what ended up kind of building his image up for all of us more than I had intended. But what I love about my film is that it is what I was thinking at that time. And that's what I was trying to convey. I don't think that way now, but that's what we were thinking, that's what I was seeing, and that's why we were there, and that's why we ended up staying for so long, and that's why we got so confused and so hurt. So, yeah, it took me a while before I even realized I needed to make a movie about this. I tried to heal myself after it ended, and all my friends did. We all healed ourselves in different ways. Mine was to travel and to do everything I wanted to do that I didn't allow myself to do, and experience things on my own. So that period before I started making the film was completely confusing. I had no sense of direction, no sense of purpose, no sense of self, because everything I thought about myself was now questioned. My name wasn't even my name. I had no money. So it was hard, and relationships were really difficult to be intimate because I didn't realize I had suffered damage with boundaries and sense of sexual boundaries. And so I think during that 4 years or so before I started to make the film, I struggled through relationships, and everyone helped me, all my friends. We all talked about it, and everyone understood what I was going through. So. I think that's when it got really hard, when I finally had to go back and revisit all the footage and to look at him again and to listen to him again. And a lot of what he said rang true to a part of me which I didn't want to deal with, because I didn't want to hear it, because I'd heard it for so many years. So it's hard to put myself through that again. But it was really important because I remember every shot I filmed over 20 years because I'm behind the lens and I remember it. So I take those images back then and then I take them into my editing room and I repurpose them and make them into something beautiful. So I had lots of memories tied into all these images. So it was very emotional. And as I was editing, trying to put the emotion into the movie that we were experiencing, I had to relive it all the time, and it was hard. I haven't yet. I have been very protected. I'm very protective of the project. I wouldn't let anyone know. I never sent anything out to people. Only the people who were in it knew about it. When I went to see what was happening now in the present with the teacher and his new group, I was very undercover with that. I couldn't expose any of that because I hadn't finished the film. I was still in the middle of it, and I didn't want trouble. So I anticipated trouble, but I danced around it by keeping it very quiet. But now there's trouble, now that it's out. There's been death threats. One of my cast members who lives very close to the group got a very aggressive death threat in person. He and his wife, his new wife. And they have gone to the police and they have filed reports, and now there's an official warrant for the person's arrest, who turns out lives with the teacher, owns the teacher's house, very closely associated to the teacher, who has changed his name again. So it's all happening right now. I think there's going to be a lot of legal issues coming up for him now that we have this film. You mean like he might like it? Well, that was my big concern. He's a narcissist. They do this. He always wanted to be famous. So here I am, and I also had horrible dreams, like, oh my God, I'm the one, here I am, he's still using me to make his movie, right? But at least it's truthful and it's honest. But yeah, I had to make him look good, unfortunately, in certain parts, because that's how we saw him. And I joke saying that he'll tell his disciples now that they can watch the first half, the good part. Yeah, that's true, but the rest are lies. So. But yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, I hate to think that he likes what's happening, but he might like it. He might think, look at all this attention I'm getting.